And when it is about the game of electoral politics, the opposition forces at the moment are far behind the ruling party. But ballot swallow, violence and assaults have marred counting and post-counting in Bengal Panchayat elections. And the failure to ascertain accountability by the ruling dispensation in the state has cast a huge shadow on the big lead in the vote share. A BJP fact-finding team, spearheaded by Ravi Shankar Prasad, has now arrived in West Bengal, and it is visiting areas that have been hit by the poll violence and attempting to also speak to the victims to assess the ground situation. The point is that despite several interventions by the Calcutta High Court, which directed the deployment of central forces at all the polling booths, the question still lurking is whether the West Bengal State Election Commission really failed on several accounts. Did the State Election Commission's decision to conduct a huge exercise of three-tier rural elections across 61,636 polling booths on a single day prove costly for the state, now nearly synonymous by poll-associated violence? And is the BJP-led fact-finding team an attempt to divert attention from the party's humiliating defeat in the Panchayat polls, and also a retaliatory measure to Mamata Banerjee sending her own fact-finding team to Manipur? And if it is only politicking that both the BJP and the TMC are really focused on, where goes the interest of the electorate?
অনেক এজেন্সি একটা জিনিস আপনারা লক্ষ্য করুন, আমরা কি অপরাধ করেছি? আমি অপরাধ করলে আমায় শাস্তি দিন, আমার কোনো যায় আসে না। আমি মামাটি মানুষের শাস্তি মেনে নিতে রাজি আছি। আমার যদি সত্যিই কোনো অপরাধ থাকে, যে অপরাধ মানুষ আমাকে দেবে আমি মাথা থেকে নেব।
মমতা বন্দ্যোপাধ্যায় নেতৃত্বাধীন সর্বভারতীয় তৃণমূল কংগ্রেসকে বিপুলভাবে সমর্থন জানিয়ে বিরোধীদের পরিকল্পিত সন্ত্রাস লক্ষ্যবিন্দু করে নিয়ে প্রাণহানি ঘটিয়েছে। তারা বুঝে গেছিল যে তারা ভয়ঙ্করভাবে হারবে।
कल काउंटिंग में भी हत्या हुई, काउंटिंग में भी पीटा गया है। कई बार लोग जीत गए, जीतने के बाद कहा गया कि तृणमूल में ज्वाइन करो, नहीं तो तुमको सर्टिफिकेट नहीं मिलेगा। ममता जी, यू हैव शेम्ड द डेमोक्रेसी।
इट इज नथिंग बट ए वेस्ट बंगाल स्टेट गवर्नमेंट स्पॉन्सर्ड violence. Goons belonging to the ruling party have been unleashing a reign of terror.
And we are now getting some breaking news that's coming out on Viewpoint. As BJP MP Ravi Shankar Prasad, who's leading that fact-finding team of the BJP, is currently speaking as he's met with the victims of the political violence in the state.
ये सुशीला मंडल है, इसका परिवार हमारी पार्टी का समर्थक है। ये सुशीला मंडल इधर खड़ी। हाँ, यही है। इसकी बहू और इसके बेटे बूथ पर काम कर रहे थे पार्टी की तरफ से, और टीएमसी के लोग बूथ कैप्चर करने की कोशिश कर रहे थे, उसका विरोध किया। घर पर आकर के पूरे घर को तोड़ा, उधर सामान छीटा, उनके बेटे को तलवार से हमला किया, उनकी बहू को पीटा, इनके बूढ़े पति बोल नहीं सकते हैं, उनकी पिटाई किया, ये दरवाजा भी तोड़ दिया। अब मैं আপনি এইখানে আসুন, আপনি এইখানে আসুন, আপনি এইখানে আসুন। अब आप देखिए, अरे ठीक है चलो, ये सुशीला मंडल है, मालूम है ना आपको? अति पिछड़े समाज से आती है। ये क्या हो रहा है ममता जी? ये क्या हो रहा है? एक गरीब की झोपड़ी में आपके लोग आकर के उठापटक करते हैं, तोड़ देते हैं, सामान फेंक देते हैं, इसके बेटे को कटारी से मारते हैं, और उसकी सुरक्षा के लिए पार्टी को उसके लिए बाहर व्यवस्था करनी पड़ती है, और बात करती है लोकतंत्र की। शर्म आनी चाहिए ममता जी आपको। बहुत हिम्मत दिखाया। आप
ये लोग कुछ मांग की आप लोगों के पास कुछ मांग किया?
बस न्याय की मांग कर रहे हैं, बस न्याय की मांग कर रहे हैं।
अभी भी
मैं
इनके बेटे क्या घर वापस आ सके हैं?
नहीं आ सके हैं, नहीं आ सके हैं। इसलिए इनको न्याय मिलना चाहिए। मैं उम्मीद करूंगा पुलिस सुरक्षा देगी, इनका बेटा इनकी बहू यहां आ सके। और ममता जी, मैं आपसे पूछ रहा हूं, एक गरीब सुशीला मंडल का बेटा और बहू अपने गांव के घर में आ सकते हैं कि नहीं आ सकते हैं? ये कौन सा लोकतंत्र है? अगर इसका एक कतरा भी किसी बीजेपी रूल्ड स्टेट में हुआ होता तो तूफान खड़ा कर देते कांग्रेस पार्टी, राहुल गांधी, सीताराम येचुरी, सीपीआई, नीतीश कुमार, जो इतने लोग बने हुए हैं। और यहां एक गरीब के साथ ये बदसलूकी हुई है, ये बहुत दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है। हम इसकी भर्त्सना करते हैं और हम अपील करेंगे इसके बेटे को सुरक्षा में इसके घर लाया जाए। ये अपने बेटे बहू के लिए तड़प रही है।
कब की घटना है और कौन लोग इसकी जिम्मेदार?
ये 8 तारीख को।
That was Ravi Shankar Prasad meeting with the victims of the violence, and he's also given his piece to the media. Let's see where does this go from here. But before we actually open this up for debate this evening, let me bring in Mr. O.P. Rawat, who's the former Chief Election Commissioner of India. He's joining me on the broadcast, and the attempt is to understand the protocol with the Election Commission when it is about polling in any state or in the country. Mr. Rawat, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. I first like to welcome you and understand, do you see something clearly amiss when it is about the role of the State Election Commission over what has happened in the state of West Bengal?
Actually, the local elections are always bitterly fought, not only in West Bengal, but most of the states. Because the stakes are too high for the local populace, and the governance issues at the local level, they cause all these stresses and strains at the time of elections. But any violence is really unfortunate, whether it is elections or otherwise. There should be a strict protocol like Election Commission of India for legislative and parliament elections. They have a protocol that all sensitive, critical, hypersensitive booths will be identified. The policing arrangements with central paramilitary force will be, how will be deployed. Police observers will be deployed. All those arrangements are there, and they have published a manual also on these kind of issues. If those arrangements are in place, violence can be mitigated. Like in Bihar elections earlier, it used to be really very violent, but starting 2015, you see that there has been not a single case of violent incident there during legislative assembly election.
Mr. Rawat, I'd like to understand, while you say that, when you talk about the sensitive areas, the sensitive booths, even after the direction of the High Court, the Calcutta High Court, do you see that that entire protocol, that process was followed duly by the State Election Commission? Because what is being claimed is otherwise by the opposition in the state of West Bengal.
I will not enter into politics because elections have replaced wars and battles for deciding the successor to rule. So I won't go into that area. But because High Court directed at the time when we were in the thick of it, when campaigning was on. So at that time, when when the building is burning, you don't look for the water holes. That's the thing. So it has to be done well in advance, plan it, identify the critical, sensitive, hypersensitive booths, and deploy the forces which induce faith and confidence of all stakeholders in the arrangements. And that really prevents the violence.
Mr. Rawat, why I asked you that question is because even after the intervention of the court, there was a retaliatory plea that was put forth at the Calcutta High Court because the state government and the State Election Commission were not happy with the order of deployment of central forces in West Bengal. Do you think that also formed as a deterrent and that's why the violence could not really stop?
I won't be able to comment on that.
Okay.
But basically the preparedness beforehand and deployment of forces according to that strategy with proper identification of all these sensitive and critical areas would have really prevented.
Okay.
But nothing much could have been done after you are in it.
Okay. All right. Mr. O.P. Rawat, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us on Viewpoint and giving your time on the broadcast. And on that note, let me open this debate further to my panel who's joining me this evening. Priyanka Tibrewal of the BJP, Chandan Ghosh Chaudhary of the Bengal Congress, and JP Majumdar of the TMC is with us on the broadcast. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on the broadcast. Let me actually begin with JP Majumdar, since it's your government in the state of West Bengal. I'd like to first draw viewers' attention to the figure that's been quoted by the Chief Minister in the state. 19 deaths is what she's claiming as the official number of casualties that have come out as far as the pre and post-poll violence, which are still continuing unabated in the state of West Bengal. But what will the TMC say about what else could have been done so that this could have been avoided or brought down to a bare minimum?
Now, first of all, we have to see that such local polls, was Mr. O.P. Rawat said, that have got local stakes and at times get violent. And whoever died during this course of thing, we have regretted those incidents, and our Chief Minister has also expressed her regret about the whole thing. But the point is, while BJP was asking for blood, you see the Trinamool Congress for last 2 months, especially Abhishek Banerjee during her Padayatra across Bengal, always asked for peaceful election and peaceful nomination. And this time there is record nomination, unprecedented in any state of India, that 2,32,000 nominations were put, and no opposition party can say there was problem in nomination. And we have asked for a peaceful election as well. But the other political parties, they thought our asking peace is weakness of Trinamool Congress, and they started that we are without connectivity with the people, we will win the election with our muscle forces, money and muscle. And they have arranged. All these BJP leaders says that arong dholai hobe, meaning tremendous beating will take place. That is Shubhendu Adhikari. And Dilip Ghosh said that kacha bash kete rakhte hobe. That means that you have to ready with sticks and bamboos. And Sukanta Majumdar said one step ahead that wherever central force will not be there, our cadres will act like central force with gun. Just imagine that instigating own cadres to have bomb and guns before the election starts. That kind of atmosphere were created by BJP, CPM and Congress. That is Rainbow Alliance they have made.
No, but I don't understand, Mr. Majumdar. How can you actually shirk your hands out of this entire violence? It is your state that we're talking about. We just played out a reaction by a member of the BJP delegation, the fact-finding team that is currently in West Bengal. Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad met with one of the families of the victim. And it was, in fact, put out there that the son and the daughter-in-law were not even allowed to get back home. The houses were ransacked. And what they are claiming is that this entire thing was done by the TMC goons. Those voices are on record. What would you say to those voices? These are locals from West Bengal.
These are all stage managed. And today's delegation is a farce on democracy. Yesterday the leader of opposition said that central BJP does not care about Bengal BJP. On record, Shubhendu Adhikari said. And that's why they have said a rejected leader like Ravi Shankar Prasad, who has been rejected leader by the central BJP. And he has been saying these things, and these local BJP people made a stage managed for the camera purpose, photo opportunity.
Okay.
And I want to say that this Shubhendu Adhikari, the leader of the opposition, in a lecture, election lecture, said that if you think you are not going to win, run away with the ballot boxes. On record, Shubhendu Adhikari, opposition leader, saying
but they are accusing you of ballot swallows. They are accusing you of ballot swallows.
That is what I'm saying. That these are all acquisition by these people, because out of sheer defeat, जो जीता वही सिकंदर, हम लोग जीता है. We have won the election with people's vote. 99% booth.
We'll come back to the victory part, and I would like to understand, is the victory not coming with a huge shadow of the killings that the state has seen? But let me bring in Ms. Priyanka Tibrewal to respond to these allegations that you're making. Ms. Tibrewal, first of all, this fact-finding team that's led by Ravi Shankar Prasad, the allegation that the TMC is making is, of course, that this is an attempt to stay away from the horrendous defeat that you guys have seen in West Bengal, and also a retaliatory measure because Mamata Banerjee is sending her own fact-finding team to Manipur.
Hi, Garima. Very good evening. Well, firstly, Garima, defeat or win, that is not the issue of discussion here, because what we are facing now is a widespread violence all over Bengal. Although I expected more dignity and dignified comments from Mr. Mojumdar as to who's a rejected leader and not, I leave that up to the people, and he knows that well. See, there has been a complete denial from TMC over the violence issue here in West Bengal. Well, starting from the day of the nomination, he says it was so peaceful, nothing went wrong. Although we saw the hurling of bombs and everything, which was visible on the media. But hurling of bombs, some gunshots, few people dying is a casual affair for them. They don't care about it. So from the day of nomination to the day of voting, to the day of deployment of the CAPF, to the day of counting, and the current situation where the post-poll violence is visible on the ground, there is a visible defiance from the TMC, and the court held the State Election Commission responsible for the same today. In the order of the Honorable High Court, they said that the State Election Commission is responsible for whatever has happened because there has been complete non-compliance of the order by them. They did not comply to the order of the High Court. Even today, the Honorable High Court said that they made the central forces, that the CAPF people sit in the barracks instead of deploying them, or instead of giving the list of the sensitive places where they could go. They did not even give them transportation. All this was said just a few hours back, although I am part of the petition. So I am being able to guide you more on that. Thereafter, it has been said by the Honorable Court today that from tomorrow itself, all the central forces which have been stopped for another 10 days in West Bengal, they will be, deployed in areas which are violence-prone areas, and they know it very well. The biggest violence-prone area, to your shock, if I say, it is Diamond Harbour, which is the constituency of Abhishek Banerjee, the nephew of Mamata Banerjee. In that area, the number of cases of violence which have occurred from starting from nomination up till today and are continuing, there is no end to it. They say that they will make it a diamond model. So these are the diamond models of TMC.
Priyanka, it's still restricting to politics. So I'm afraid I'm going back to the same question that I asked you. And in fact, how I ended my piece when I started this broadcast is whether this entire politicking that is happening, this sparring that's happening between the BJP and the TMC, which is costing the electorate what they duly should have been given. And life should not have been lost because of this. I mean, it's okay to go ahead and probably, go ahead and target TMC. But the important aspect is that TMC has won a landslide victory there.
It is an insult.
It's your word against the TMC.
And in between,
it's your word against the TMC. You are accusing TMC. TMC is doing otherwise.
Fighting for the rights of people. And TMC is here killing the people.
And who will stand judge?
There's a lot of difference. Both are on different
Priyanka, who will
stands.
stand judge?
So that's what I'm saying, man. Don't compare us with TMC at all over here.
TMC.
They are the people who are responsible for the death of people in West Bengal.
And they are claiming
even now
it's
it
yours.
is happening. And you see in the coming days, more will happen.
No, I want to put a small note.
Yes.
That where is people and BJP connectivity? BJP was more busy in either High Court or Raj Bhavan. They never thought that it is required to go to people. Neither they have any version what to say. That we
well, I'll give you certain data, Mr. Mojumdar.
Bengal.
I will give you certain data, Mr. Mojumdar.
No.
2018, before you joined TMC, see what has happened to TMC after
don't speak over one another. One second, Mr. Majumdar.
Mr.
Majumdar, 1 second. Let her make a point. Yes,
allow me to just give the data.
Yeah.
After people like Mr. Mojumdar went to TMC, what has happened in 2018, 8,000 seats have gone down to 6,400. 38 seats have gone down to 35. So this is what has happened to TMC. And now if you look at BJP got 5,000 and now it is around 10,000. So there is, people are coming with BJP and they are getting removed from TMC. And this
Priyanka,
is also no election,
let's take your
no
word
result.
for it. Let's
Everyone
take your
has
word
witnessed.
for it.
Look at the
As a
pictures
member
which are there on
of
your screen.
the Bharatiya
People
Janata
pissing on
Party,
ballot
Priyanka,
boxes.
can
This
I
is
ask
an
my
election.
question? Priyanka, I'd like to understand. Let's talk about the solution now, because we have seen this violence unabated that's been played out and is still playing out of West Bengal. As a
The
principal
solution is
opposition
to
party,
remove the
what
police
do you...
administration from here, and the
But the
administration
people
should
have
go
voted.
to the
The people
central
have
government.
voted for the TMC. The people have voted, and the landslide numbers really speak for themselves. What do you have
No,
to
they
say
have
to
not
that?
voted, ma'am. Please, I would like to correct you on that. People have not voted here. We have all seen on screens what has happened. Yesterday in the
99%
counting areas, we have seen what
voted.
has happened. So, no. This is a wrong statement. People have not voted. People have not
BJP has
voted.
not even come a close second. It's a distant second
What
that
do
we are
you mean
talking
by close,
about.
ma'am? After
I'm
50
just
people
talking
killed.
numbers. I'm just talking numbers.
After 50 people killed in this violence, what do you expect? Sitting here on media and talking is a different part, ma'am. They are
Just
sitting in the
one
Gram
point.
Panchayat where the police station is a distance of 5 kilometers from the places of their houses.
Answer the question that I
How
asked
they are
you
being
first,
tortured, how
Priyanka.
women are being raped here.
Priyanka, the accusation that the TMC is levelling at the BJP is that it's all stage managed. Who is going to counter that? That's why I'm saying it's your word against the TMC. I'd like to understand this fact-finding team that's been sent by the BJP. Why has it suddenly been done? Why, after an election loss that has been announced, why suddenly
there
a
has to be a
fact-finding team?
fact-finding. Although Mr. Majumdar disrespected Ravi Shankar Prasad ji, and once upon a time he used to, wait for his appointments. So we all know that. See, he's an ex-law minister. He understands what is the ground reality. That is why he is going and witnessing the situation, and the entire report will go to Delhi.
Oh my God, Priyanka.
There's no point going personal. All right.
Oh, Mr. Majumdar.
Okay, let me bring in Chandan Chaudhary now. Priyanka and Mr. Majumdar, I'd request you to let the third speaker on this broadcast also get a say. Mr. Chaudhary, what you see being played out, and also this war of words, this sparring between the BJP and the TMC, where does the Bengal Congress stand in all this?
Good evening, but
Good
I
evening.
don't know whether it's a real meaning of the good evening right this moment. Even, it's living in Bengal, just the atmosphere is too charged and too violent on the ground. And here I can tell you, just basically if you go and see the election, then you find the election by itself. But if you go and check the first, if you are going to analyze the first, then where you are going to discuss and what you are going to discuss, that's the great question. And I tell you here, that if somebody in the race of 400 meters already covered by physical movement, the physical violence, just by 100 meters to run, and then the coffer is full, and that is what is happening here. So if you check with the numbers, that Trinamool Congress has bagged here in Bengal, I must tell you one thing here, that if the election taken place, then the thing would have looked otherwise. But the question is not that. You were giving the example, as Mr. Majumdar was explaining something different. And Priyanka ji, definitely, she belongs to the opposition camp as we belong to. But the thing is, the perspective that you get to check must be honestly checked. And onto this ground, you can understand that an election of a panchayat level, and that is what is the local governance. The local governance where the numbers of, the killing being 47 today, the bloodshed, blood spattering, and such a kind of chaos psychosis around. And that proves what Bengal is. The perception of the election of a particular state, it's shameful. I must tell you that. And if I just give the answer of your question, that where Bengal stands, I must tell you here, Bengal Congress stands for democracy. And that is where, we supported all the opposition rise against the Trinamool Congress, the kind of violence that they have meted out here. And then finally, the governor has to really, run from post to pillar, I tell you. I'll just tell you this. Why did the constitutional chief, he had some opinions rather, but ultimately he was not helped. We expected this fact-finding mission which has come from Delhi today, led by Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, Honorable Ravi Shankar Prasad ji. But the question is, that is what's sent by a particular political party. What does the particular action, by the Home Ministry, where the governor is giving the anticipatory report. The governor is giving the certain, the condition or the atmosphere or the environment of Bengal violence. And he ran, really, I tell you here. But the question is that did it
Yeah, I asked the same question, but it's been left unanswered by the member of the BJP. I would put that again to Priyanka, but Mr. Majumdar, you talk about opposition unity elsewhere in India, but when it is about your own state, there is a different kind of opposition unity, at least on this issue of poll violence that we are seeing here. The BJP and the Congress are united in accusing the TMC of violence unabated in West Bengal. How do you see yourself cornered and yet responding to these allegations, saying that it's the other way around?
No, this is not, we are not cornered. Just I will take for 1 second your attention to the 2021 assembly election. There, while Trinamool Congress was fighting BJP with the headed by Prime Minister said Agla baar 200 par, and along with the Congress and CPM, all along with were fighting only Trinamool Congress. At the end, Trinamool Congress, and it was conducted by National Election Commission, 8 phases election under central forces, everything. And Trinamool Congress 200 par karke dikha diya, that agla baar 200 par. And what BJP said, after that great defeat, that's it. From
Chandan,
3 MLAs, we have come to 77 MLAs. That is our win. And today, same logic given by Priyanka. They don't have organization. They don't have people connectivity. They are disseminated.
Okay, got your point, Mr. Majumdar. Chandan, your word.
Now look
All
at
right,
the
Chandan, please
arrogance
go
of
ahead.
Mr. Majumdar. After
Once
50
again, Priyanka,
people
I'll come to
almost kill in
you.
an
I'll come to you.
election,
Let
he's
Chandan
having
make
no
a point.
empathy.
Let Chandan make his point. Yes, Chandan.
Yeah. This is a very shameful statement. I must tell you here that does TMC won the election of 2021, and that does not give them the license to kill the people, to kill the atmosphere of the democracy. It does not give them the license as to harass the opposition parties, and moreover harass the general people in masse. This is where the character of Trinamool Congress. How could you expect the democracy is safe?
Who
Okay.
stopped
The democracy is
BJP
into a-
from
Okay. Mr. Majumdar,
Who stopped
Mr.
BJP
Mr.
from
Majumdar, allow me to
taking
come
over?
in here. Allow me to come in. Mr. Majumdar, one second. Chandan, all right, I got your point. Chandan, I got your point. Let me come in here.
No.
1 second. Mr. Majumdar, let me ask my question.
Yes.
Mr. Majumdar,
Yes.
I want to understand that there was a verdict that came out of the Calcutta High Court of deployment of central forces. If at all you were looking at a smooth sailing as far as this electoral process is concerned, then why go ahead and bar it? Why was there a counter plea before the High Court against that by not just the state government but also the State Election Commission? So the accusation that is coming in from the opposition, from the various sectors, that the state government and the State Election Commission is working in cahoots to actually get this entire verdict of the Panchayat polls in TMC's favor, how would you choose to diss that argument?
No, Election Commission must have thought that 2018 election they have conducted without central forces, and they will conduct election with the local police and police from other states. That may be their design.
No, but
see,
when the court intervened,
coming.
yes,
I'm coming.
yes.
Just you see, then court reaffirmed that there will be central forces. Fine. 842 or 844 companies of central forces were supposed to come. State Election Commission designed the whole election according to that forces available. And what the Central Union Minister did, that till the previous evening of the election day, they have sent only 50% of that. And that too, court order a BSF commandant to look after the deployment. He later on saying, I have not received the sensitive booth list which is available in court on the public forum, because the election commission was asked to provide the sensitive booth list to the court itself. And later on the commandant said, I did not get. And there was no sign. This is a part of conspiracy that central force will not go. BJP goons will kill Trinamool activists under that thing. This was a great conspiracy done, and Central Union Home Minister was part and parcel of this thing. Can you explain that why Central Union Minister, Union Home Minister could not send the central force in time, and in time they could be deployed? That is the responsibility of these people.
I already
not
gave an answer
anyone,
to this.
not
I've already
state.
given an answer to this. See, by screaming loudly, your lie will not turn out into truth.
Yeah,
The
please make your
court
point.
itself
Priyanka,
has
make your
pulled
point. We
today
don't have
the
time on
State
the
Election
broadcast.
Commission and has said
Mr.
that when
Majumdar.
the central forces came, you did not deploy them. Now they said that the BSF commandant asked them for sensitive booth leads, but it was not provided to them. So today, what did the Honorable High Court say? That their deployment now will be done by the BSF commandant and nobody from the state will be consulted. Then the state of West Bengal stood up and said that no, please allow our chief secretary and people to tell them the areas. Why, if you are ready to tell them the areas today, why didn't you tell them the areas when the election was being conducted? So
he's
this is
saying the list
simply
was
that
already
they
with the
didn't
court.
want that the
He's saying the list
central
was already
forces
with
should
the
reach
court.
the ground. Don't laugh, Mr. Majumdar. You got a very tight slap. Your party
No,
got a
no.
very tight slap
I
today
don't know.
in the
No,
court.
no, no,
It is a
one
matter
second.
of shame.
Priyanka,
It is a matter of
I'm
shame.
giving you the last word.
So
Mr.
their
Majumdar, we got your point.
intention was that people should be killed, and that is exactly what
Okay,
happened.
this is going about in circles. Priyanka, all right, Mr. Majumdar, we got your point, sir. Thank you so much. Priyanka, I'd like to understand this one aspect. There is a reason that has been given by the TMC. In this case, he's saying that the list was already with the court. You are saying otherwise. The other aspect is that
he's lying. That is what I'm saying. Just lying on national media.
All right, so let me ask my question. Let me ask my question. Let me ask my question because we don't have the time. We don't have the time on the broadcast. I quickly want to understand that to what effect will this fact-finding team be able to resolve all sorts of issues that are there in the state of West Bengal, even this entire accusation, or, for example, the reasoning that you're giving on repolling, because of the numbers that we're seeing are vast. Even in the repolling, you'll not be able to make up for the numbers.
Let the people get this straight, that out of 100% booths, they said that only 7% booths are sensitive. And where has the violence taken place? We have seen all that.
Answer my fact-finding question,
So they did not provide transportation, first of all.
You have made that point.
Which has been mentioned
Priyanka,
in the court
10
today.
seconds. Fact-finding. Answer the question.
Yes, the fact-finding committee, of course. Now see what has happened in the elections in 2021. We have all seen. For a number of days, people could not go back to their houses and homes. Now this fact-finding committee who has come down here will let the people in Delhi know that what is the ground reality. So it was very much required that they come down and see.
All right.
What
Thank
we are
you
going
so
through,
much.
what
I'm
we are
really
facing
sorry.
through,
I'd have to
how the
wrap
police
this. Priyanka, Mr. Majumdar and Chandan, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast. We hope that this conversation really leads to some place, and the violence that is continuing in the state of West Bengal despite the announcement of the election results stops. We'll see where does it go from here. But right now I'm slipping into a very short break. But up next, 28% GST on gaming has sparked fears over the future of the booming industry of gaming in the country. Is this prudence or overreach by the government? That debate after a short break.
पर रोक इसलिए भी लगाई गई है क्योंकि लगातार भूस्खलन हो रहा है पहाड़ी क्षेत्रों में। गंगा का जो जल स्तर है वो लगातार बढ़ रहा है और ऐसे में देखिए क्योंकि चारधाम यात्रा तो चली रही है जिसमें श्रद्धालु पहुंचते हैं बड़ी संख्या में, साथ ही कांवड़ यात्रा भी चल रही है और कांवड़ यात्रा में लोग हरिद्वार से लेकर के गंगोत्री तक पहुंचते हैं गंगा जल लेने के लिए, क्योंकि वो वहां से गंगा जल लेकर अपने अपने गंतव्यों को जाते हैं, अपने अपने घरों में जाते हैं। और एक भोले की जो आस्था है, भगवान भोले की जो शिव की महिमा है, उसको देखते हुए लोग यहाँ पर आते हैं, इतना जोखिम उठाते हैं। और जिस तरह से हम दिखा भी रहे हैं विजुअल्स में अपने दर्शकों को लगातार कि किस तरह से लोग जान को हथेली पर लेकर के चल रहे हैं, लगातार यहाँ का जो मूवमेंट है वो देखने में खतरनाक लग रहा है। एक डर जो है वो यहाँ पर यात्रियों में भी है, लेकिन एक चुनौती मानते हुए इसको वो निकल जा रहे हैं। और प्रशासनिक टीम की थोड़ी सी कहा जा सकता है कि कहीं कहीं पर अलर्टनेस काफी है, लेकिन कहीं कहीं पर ऐसा भी है जहां पर कोई भी प्रशासनिक अमला नहीं दिखाई दे रहा है या फिर पुलिस का कोई भी जवान यहां पर दिखाई नहीं दे रहा है, जबकि यहां पर डेंजर जोन है। ऐसे में यात्रियों को रोकना बहुत जरूरी है, क्योंकि अगर पहाड़ी से पत्थर आएंगे या फिर जल स्तर बढ़ेगा तो ये काफी गंभीर हो सकता है। और ऐसे में कई यात्री, जैसे कि हम बता रहे हैं कि 3000 से ज्यादा यात्री केवल उत्तरकाशी में फंसे हुए हैं अभी भी, और लगातार, क्योंकि अगर हम आंकड़ा देखें तो लाखों लोग डेली के यहाँ पर पहुंच रहे हैं, यहाँ पर रुक कर रहे हैं, और उत्तरकाशी के हालात दिनों दिन बिगड़ते हुए भी नजर आ रहे हैं। जी
विशाल, आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया इन सारी जानकारी के लिए। Now shifting focus to the national capital, where the water level of Yamuna has breached the danger mark of 205.33 meters and has now crossed, in fact, the 207 meter mark at 5 a.m. today. Rail and road traffic on the old Yamuna bridge was temporarily suspended yesterday. Thousands of people have been evacuated from the low-lying areas. Now, this development came as more rain was predicted in the city for the entire week after 3 continuous days of torrential downpours, which triggered waterlogging in several areas in the national capital. Now, remember, the Yamuna is threatening to cross its highest flood level of 207.49 meters, which was recorded in 1978. So, the water level of Yamuna in Delhi has breached its danger mark of 205.33 meters and has now crossed the 207 meter mark at 5 a.m. today. CNN News 18's Akash Sharma and Yash Goyal are joining us live on the broadcast. Akash, coming to you first, can you tell us, the Yamuna has now crossed the danger mark. What is the latest situation?
Right, so Anjali, you see Yamuna has crossed the danger level mark. In fact, 48 hours have already been passed. In fact, day before yesterday, Yamuna crossed the danger level mark. But as of now, it is flowing above to the 207 mark. Whenever we talk about the flood condition in the national capital, so this whole scene in fact reminds us of the 1978 when the water level was in fact recorded at 207.48. But now I'm showing you the visuals of famous Shani Mandir here in the Old Delhi area, where in fact you can see the 2 visuals. First of all, this particular board where we have this Shri Shani Chalisha written, and you can see the visual there, and also this this boy who is standing. In fact, 3 to 4 feet of water. In fact, this water has come inside to this particular temple premise, and also as far as these people are concerned, so they are saying that a number of animals, aquatic animals, are seen in this particular water. आप मुझे बताइए क्या नाम है आपका और अब कब पानी आया इस मंदिर?
कृष्णकांत शर्मा नाम है मेरा।
अच्छा।
और कल रात से पानी आना शुरू हो गया था मंदिर में।
कल रात से पानी शुरू हो गया था। सांप वगैरह भी आ रहे हैं?
सांप वगैरह भी है, जानवर वगैरह भी आ रहे हैं।
अच्छा, तो आप लोगों से बोला गया है यहाँ से चले जाने के लिए या सामान
करने के लिए बोला? वाटर लेवल अभी और बढ़ेगा।
अच्छा, वाटर लेवल और बढ़ेगा। तो क्या कुछ आप कर रहे हैं, कैसे क्या कुछ सामान यहाँ से पिक कर रहे हो, कहाँ लेके जाएंगे?
सामान है मंदिर का, वो सारा यहाँ से मंदिर से बाहर कर रहे हैं। हाँ। हाइट पे कर रहे हैं। हाँ। ताकि वो खराब ना हो।
तो ये पिछली साल या हर साल ऐसा ही होता है या इस बार ज्यादा
नहीं होता? ये 2010 में ऐसा हुआ था, उसके बाद अब है।
लास्ट 2010 में आया था। कहाँ तक आ गया था पानी?
2010 में ये सामने जो लेवल देख रहे हैं आप, प्लेटफॉर्म जो है ब्लैक, वहाँ तक आ गया था।
अच्छा, वहाँ
उसके ऊपर पानी था।
और अभी आपसे बोला है कि और बढ़ेगा। कोई डिस्ट्रिक्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन की टीम आपके पास आ रही है कि या राहत सामग्री वगैरह लेकर या कुछ?
टीम्स वगैरह वैसे आई थी इन्फॉर्मेशन देने के लिए कि भाई घाट वगैरह खाली करने, बाकी कोई राहत सामग्री के लिए कोई टीम नहीं है।
कोई टीम नहीं। कितने लोग हैं आप लोग यहाँ पर?
यहाँ पे तकरीबन 10 एक ब्राह्मण है, 10-12 ब्राह्मण है।
10-12 ब्राह्मण। तो आप कहाँ जाएंगे फिर अगर ज्यादा पानी बढ़ जाएगा?
यहीं हाइट पे रहेंगे।
यहीं हाइट पे रहेंगे। तो यहाँ तो फिर एक लेवल ऐसा भी आएगा कि यहाँ से भी निकलना पड़ेगा?
तो अपना घर है, घर पे जाएंगे। कृष्णा नगर
में, तो वहाँ चले जाएंगे। Chale, all right. So, Anjali, this is the condition, and in fact, let me tell you that 45 boats have been arranged by the Delhi government, and several district administrative teams. In fact, we have East Delhi district magistrate, then we have Central Delhi administration, and also the South Delhi administration. We know that how Central and East Delhi are the most affected areas, and this is the reason why, in fact, teams are on standby, and not just district administrative teams, but also we have local people, helping each other, supporting each other.
Hill state of Himachal Pradesh that continues to bear the brunt of heavy rainfall. The floods have disrupted the daily movement in the state as over 1,200 roads have been blocked, including the Shimla-Kalka and Manali-Chandigarh national highways, and over 1,400 bus routes have also been suspended due to the ongoing flood crisis in the state. Now, it is pertinent to note that 72 people have lost their lives in the state, and Himachal Pradesh Chief Minister Sukhwinder Singh Sukhu also monitored the situation through aerial survey yesterday. News 18's Vishal is joining us live from the Gangotri Highway in Uttarakhand. Vishal, what is the situation in Uttarakhand?
बिल्कुल यहाँ पर हम दिखाना चाहेंगे
Welcome back. You're watching Viewpoint with me, Griha. Now, the GST Council's decision to levy 28% GST on the turnover of online gaming has caused apprehension in India's booming gaming industry. A shared sentiment among all stakeholders of India's sprawling online gaming industry. Members of the gaming industry, in fact, believe that a change in the valuation of tax on the total consideration will cause irreversible damage to the industry, lead to loss of revenue to the exchequer, and also the loss of employment for lakhs of skilled engineers. But if we were to quote the finance minister, Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman, she has in fact reiterated that the intent was not to end any industry linked to online gaming, but there was definitely a deliberation on the moral question of whether these should be taxed at the same rate as essential items. Now remember, the GST Council, in its 50th meeting, has decided to levy a uniform 28% tax on full face value for online gaming, casinos and horse racing, while reducing the rate for uncooked or unfried snack pellets, cancer medication and also the imitation zari thread. Now, the meeting also clarified that the rate for food and beverages that are sold inside multiplexes and the definition for all utility vehicles should be actually put in place in order to bring parity for class and cess levy. Now, online gaming, which is a truly dominant form of home entertainment, is one of the fastest growing industry in the world, which is now tipped to maintain its recent rapid growth. And with that, it could be worth $321 billion by 2026. Not just that, it's also one that has set a blueprint that several other emerging tech markets have followed. And with faces like Virat Kohli, MS Dhoni and Saurav Ganguly endorsing the online gaming platforms, the judgment coming in now is whether being rigorously questioned is something that can be done. So in the face of all this and this decision, we do try and decode whether India's inks fear that this new taxation could nip the nascent sector legitimate or not.
There will be an amendment to the Section 3 of the GST, Schedule 3 of the GST Act, and we will be bringing in online gaming into the actionable claim list, where item number 6 very clearly says betting, gaming and lotteries. Betting, gambling and lotteries are already in it. We will be including online gaming also into it.
Now, before we open this up for debate, let's first look at India's online gaming industry. What does it bring to the table as far as a boost to economy? Let's first understand the market relevance. So we are given to understand that the market is expected to grow to 8.6 billion by 2027 if we solely look at India. And if this entire annual growth is compounded, then the rate can go up from 28 to 30%. That's how important that industry is, and it is going to be impacting the economy in a good way. Now, if we look at the user base, it's expected to rise above 500 million by 2025. So in the next 2 years, more than 500 million users are going to be part of this online gaming platform. If we go further, we are given to understand that 120 million Indian gamers are currently paying users. So all of that goes on to add to the money that's coming into the exchequer. And as far as the India record is concerned, India has recorded 15 billion downloads in the financial year 2022. But if we look at the overview of the arguments, despite all of these that have been put in place, what are the arguments that have been put as far as the GST Council is concerned, going for the 28% tax levy, and what are the arguments against it? Let's take a look at both the sides. Now, the GST Council, in fact, says that the online gaming, the taxation itself will be a major contributor to the exchequer. The argument that's against is that this is going to hamper the capacity for the gaming sector's growth. And the impinging upon the growth is a major argument that is against this tax levy. If we go further, they also go on to claim that this is going to be an entry barrier for people who are in fact coming into the startup sector. If we actually go ahead and ask the other, like I mentioned, this is also going to be a threat on job losses. Like they said, lakhs of jobs are going to be taken away because of this 28% tax levy. If we take a look at the next point, this is also the argument that's against it, that it impacts the vision to make India a global gaming hub. At least that is what the projection was. But if we go ahead with that tax levy, this is not going to happen, is what is the argument against it. Another argument that the GST Council is making is that there should be a level playing field between the online and traditional gaming platforms. The argument against that is that this cannot be equated to skill-based games with chance-based games. Because earlier, that sort of a demarcation was not really presented when these platforms were allowed to proliferate for 10 years, and that's the argument precisely against it, that why did they not really think about it when it is about skilled and chance-based game. Another argument that's for it is that against it is that this emboldens black market offshore gaming platforms, so people who don't even pay taxes will end up benefiting from this exercise. Another argument by the GST Council, it creates clarity in sector riddled with revenue probes. They go on to claim that this is a market that is veiled by, in fact, an opacity, and that is how it's actually operated is not yet known. But the argument against it is that they are sending mixed signals to the investors. All the foreign investors are going to be spooked. The government also goes on to say that, in fact, the argument against it is that the government had earlier recognized this as a separate status for an potential sector, but now they are claiming otherwise. And that is what is, in fact, saying that this is not going to be something that will go well with the Indian gaming industry. Let me now open it to my guest on the broadcast, Mr. Subhash Chandra Garg, who's a former Finance Secretary, Government of India, is with us on the broadcast this evening. Also with us is Mr. Jiten Jain, who's a cyber law expert. And last but not the least, Khushbu Jain, who's a founding partner of ARC Legal and also an advocate, is also joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Garg, let me begin with you. What, after this decision of the 28% tax levy, how do you think it is going to be impacting the online gaming industry, the fast booming industry? Do you think that the worries from the gaming industry stakeholders are real?
See, the most damaging part of the decisions which the GST Council made is to treat or bring the online gaming at par with the betting and gambling and the horse racing, and deny the exemption which is available to the actionable claims like loans and others, on which the GST is not levied on the principal amount of the actionable claim. Now, how it works out is that if you're playing an online game,
yes,
where you're depositing, let's say, 100 rupees, and out of which the platform which has provided the online gaming services gets about 10 rupees or so, and 90 rupees goes to the prize pool. Now, with this change, which is being proposed, the GST would be levied on 100 rupees, which is at 28%, 28 rupees of GST, yes, whereas the GST platform is getting or creating the value of only rupees 10, which is what it is getting. And therefore, literally, this change which has been proposed makes the GST not 28%, but about 20 to 280% of the value added. GST is levied on the value added, not on the amount of the actionable claim. 28% decision is not all that significant. It makes difference. But the biggest hit is this decision. I think this will impact the gaming industry very badly. The online gaming is the future of entertainment, future of gaming. All the gamers as well as the people who have time on their hands use it for their entertainment. This, if it stays, will hurt it very badly. I think it's a very, very poor decision.
Okay. Khushbu Jain, do you think the GST Council did not really take into account all of these aspects before really deciding on that 28% tax levy? Something that's been mentioned by Mr. Garg?
See, I let me put my opinion into it. I would say that a lot of deliberation happened when imposing of a 28% of a GST on the online gaming industry, and there was a fair example of casinos that we have, that how two states in the country earn so much of revenue, levied on the casino, and how others are being left aside because now online gaming.
Okay, some problem with that link. Jiten Jain, would you like to come in here?
See, I'm not a cyber law expert. I am a cyber security expert.
Okay.
But let me come to the core of the problem.
Sure.
First of all, whether we go to buy, see a movie or watch a play at the theater, we always pay GST at the full value. Now, the movie theater could also claim that, look, I have bought a movie from the producer from 90 rupees. So if I'm selling you a ticket on 100, I will leave GST only on the value added, which is 10 rupees. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to pay GST at the full value. That's number one. Second, all these companies they themselves decided that they will deduct 18% GST as a service on that 10 rupees, what they were saying as this is our original revenue. Who decided it was 10%? Because these companies thought that we can sell online gaming and this gambling as a service. First of all, this is not a service, this is purely a digital satta. So it cannot be equated with essential commodities or service, number one. Number two, I think all this shroud of cooked up arguments, which are nicely designed PR releases, that will lead to job losses, tax cuts, hamper industry. Let me ask you, which is the most popular game in India? PUBG. Owned by a foreign company. How much tax do they pay in India last 3 years? Nil. What is the level of addiction? People are paying for 6 hours, the highest number of users. So let us not, cook up these theories with a nicely worded PR release. Third question I want to ask. You see, now chickens have come host to roost. I agree with the argument, which is raised, that you cannot equate skill-based game with the chance-based games, with the sattas. The problem is, for 10 years, they managed, I'm sorry to say, they managed the whole bureaucratic ecosystem and the setup in India by getting some favorable orders from some court, by convincing the judge or confusing the judge, I would say.
No, but can that argument not be used against the GST Council? Did the government also not allow them to proliferate for 10 years? Why 10 years?
Let me complete, madam.
Yes.
All these attempts to sell, digital satta gambling, games like Dream 11 as game of skills. Now, if that is a game of skill, then the government has decided there is no actually way to differentiate between a game of skill and a game of chance. So let's put everything together in the same basket. Okay. Now, because of this false narrative of selling game of chance as game of skill, the original game of skill innovators will also suffer. I think what government should have done, they should have actually banned this digital sattas. Only states where casino gambling and this money, gambling is allowed, this game of chance could be allowed, and government should have clearly differentiated what is a game of skill and what is a game of chance. Now, because no one want to get into that whole problem of jugglery of game of skill and game of chance, government decided that instead of going into that, let's put everything in the same basket. Okay. So I think what industry tried to make most of it by selling this satta as a game of skill. Okay. Now they have to pay 28% tax, and government has indicated all these things are sattas and gambling, and they will be equated as the same way.
All right, Jiten, got your point. Mr. Garg, I'd like you to come in here. Is there a policy inconsistency in this case? 10 years, they decide whether it is a game of skill or not, and then they put a 28% tax levy saying that let's put all eggs in the same basket, quoting by what Jiten is saying. But don't you think there should have been done earlier? And is this not going to be spooking foreign investors from coming into India, or for that matter, these Indian startups? Because most of these industries are SMEs, small and medium industries that are there. Would they not, in fact, branch out, probably start functioning out of India, go to a country like Singapore, Dubai, and function out of there? Even that has been presented as an argument by all the fantasy sports.
I think let's first get the main issue raised by our co-panelist out of the way.
Yes.
When you give an example of a movie ticket proceeds which the theater owner gets it, that entire receipt is the theater's income. 90% of that doesn't go back to the contributors as their prize money. Therefore, equating the movie proceeds with the online platform's receipt of what the platform receipt receives in the form of revenue is an entirely wrong. This is actionable claim. The equation is when you borrow from someone or the bank lends to you, the bank doesn't pay GST on the amount lent or even on the amount received as interest payments. The bank pays GST on what it receives as its own service charges. That is what is the equation. And that is what complicates the entire situation most. I think we must not get into this trap of treating the online gaming as an actionable claim, out of the actionable claim, and levy the tax on the entire amount which is given as deposit. So that's the first point, I think. Now, the second issue, which is getting raised and to my mind acts to the confusion in the entire system, is this game of skills versus the game of chance.
Yes.
There is a very legitimate argument that the games of chance are very close to gambling, or you may call it speculation or betting. And the game of chance, game of pure chance, are something which may be morally reprehensible as well. However, if the tax authorities want to tax that kind of morally reprehensible income or the value added, it can tax at a higher rate. But to sort of tarnish that all the games which are being played online today, whether it's the game of chess or whether it's game of cards, or now enormous amount of esports are coming up in the world where the sports are being played online. The digital gaming is the future of the world. It also eliminates lots of constraints. Today, the chess you can play physically if you are there, but online you can play it across the world, wherever you are. So that is where the future is. The gaming is going to be online, and that is where the skills would be used. So if you exclude, if you can distinguish between the games of skill and levy it at a lower tax rate, and tax the game of chance at a higher rate, that's fine. So if we are unable to do both of these distinctions right, that we tax the entire deposit instead of the value add, and we tax the game of skills as well as the game of chance.
Lots of confusion and impracticability is what you're claiming right now, Mr. Garg. But let me bring you...
the tax policy which is completely dysfunctional. And this will lead to what you were saying, to the destruction of this industry and the future value added in the country.
Okay, Khushbu Jain's back with us on the broadcast. Khushbu, the earlier point that you were making before you got cut off, do you think the GST Council did not take into account all of this? And when it is about this argument that's been made by the gaming industry in the country, you know, there are tax exemptions, as tax holidays that are given to boost a certain business in India. But that doesn't mean that they can be tax exempt throughout. Do you think that needs to be put into account in this case?
There has been a lot of deliberation that happened. If you look into today's decision which has been come up, and if you look into, there was example, as I was saying earlier also, that we have example of 2 states where casinos, the kind of revenue that is earned by these casinos is exorbitant, and all other states are getting exempted from it because of, you know, the online gaming is yet not been included in any of the tax regime. That's where the question comes in play, because if you look into India is becoming one of the largest or world's leading market when you talk about gaming industry. I don't think so we need to boost more because it's already there. We have one of the largest players coming from our country, and that is adding to our digital economy GDP. And to add that's where we're bringing in that let there be a parity, let there be parity.
I'm really
when
sorry,
we
we'd
talk
have
about
to leave it
offline.
at that. That's all the time that I had on the broadcast. But thank you so much for offering your views, and thank you so much for joining me on this big debate. This is going to continue. We'll see where does it head from here and whether at all it's detrimental to the gaming industry in the country or not. With that, it's a wrap from my side. Thank you so much for watching Viewpoint.
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. Clashes, chaos and deaths. They've marred the Panchayat polls in the state of Bengal. Fresh violence has even been reported from some parts